My fellow Singaporeans, as the general elections draws to a close, we appear to be more divided than ever as a nation. This is Red Dot United's call to unity. Singapore must be united as one people if we are to face the problems of the future. As part of this call to unity, I'll be speaking about two issues: the recent spate of racial incidents and climate change. Singapore is a multiracial society with diverse ethnic and cultural makeup. It is therefore important to take extreme care when talking about matters of race. Over the past week, our racial harmony has been tested by a series of police reports. We cannot allow these incidents to fracture our society and divide us. Red Dot United is committed to maintaining racial harmony in Singapore and fostering an equal society regardless of race, language, or religion. Before I speak any further about race and racial discrimination or racial disharmony, perhaps I should first address my own race. Some of you might think that as a member of the majority race in Singapore, I am perhaps less qualified to speak on issues of racial discrimination or racial inequity. After all, what do I know about racial discrimination or the issues that minorities face? I will never have the same experiences as a minority in Singapore. There are also two other candidates on our slate who are minorities. Some of you may think that they should be the ones speaking about this issue. I will admit that as a member of the majority race, I enjoy certain privileges in Singapore, some of which are unquantifiable and unmeasurable. But Red Dot United believes that the content of what you say is more important than your racial identity or even your experiences. We cannot succumb to the type of identity politics which is rampant in the United States, where a person's identity is more important than the content of their ideas. The color of my skin should not preclude me from speaking in this conversation. If we are to resolve our differences, conversation is the most important tool we have. We cannot exclude anyone from speaking by virtue of their ethnicity. Before we can even decide on how to get there, we must first decide where we want to go. Our vision for Singapore is one that is colorblind, where the color of your skin matters no more than the color of your hair. I shall hope very much that there is no disagreement about this vision. Having a colorblind society does not mean that we forsake our ethnic traditions or cultures. We can still cherish and celebrate what makes us unique. But we must realize that we are more similar than we are different. We are not just Chinese Singaporeans, Malay Singaporeans, or Indian Singaporeans. We are Singaporeans, and we bleed the same red and white. If you agree with our vision for Singapore, the next question is how we get there. We believe that we get there by focusing on our similarities rather than our differences. We cannot practice this type of identity politics which is so ingrained in American culture. One of the issues in Singapore is that race is everywhere. From the moment you are born, you need to record what race you are. Look at your identity card now. Your race is printed on that card as if it is key to what makes up your identity as a human being. When you apply for a HDB, you'll be asked to fill in your race. Our GRC system and reserve elections serve to reinforce the idea that we are an unequal society, unable to elect minorities into positions of power, despite the fact that the most popular politician in Singapore is Mr. Tharman, a minority. We are constantly reminded about our differences rather than our similarities. We need to re-examine these systems. To become colorblind, we must remove race from the consciousness of our society. These are systems that have served us well in the past, and they have aided with racial integration in Singapore. But society is changing, and we must keep up with the times. It is no longer enough to have forced quotas in residential estates with the vague hope that this will somehow encourage social cohesion. We need to focus on what makes us Singaporean rather than what drives us apart. We need to build a cohesive identity as a people rather than as separate races. This is Red Dot United's call to unity, to move towards not just a racially tolerant society, but to a society where your race does not matter. Let me now speak on the second matter, which relies not just on the political will of the government, but the unity of the people to execute it. Climate change is an existential threat, not only to Singapore, but to the world. As part of the global community, Singapore must do her part. To that end, Red Dot United will be releasing a mini charter to deal solely with the issues of climate change. Red Dot Goes Green. We want to advocate for a National Climate Change Act. This act will serve as an action plan, which will lay out strategies and initiatives to guide Singapore. We note that there is already a National Climate Change Secretariat, which was set up in 2010 to eliminate climate change issues in Singapore. However, this is merely a committee under the PMO and is not guaranteed in the law. A Climate Change Act would be binding on this government and all future governments. We note that the government has introduced a $100 billion plan to combat climate change. However, we would want to see more transparency and more accountability on where this money would be from and how it would be spent. Red Dot United wants to push the government to give a proper breakdown on spending to ensure that, first, our reserves would not be overdrawn, and second, the spending would benefit Singaporeans and Singapore companies, with foreign advisors hired only as necessary to work with our people. As part of the move towards a car-light society, we will advocate for a fundamental review of the way Singapore is designed. Singapore is still a very car-friendly society, more so than a public transport-friendly society. We need to look at our streets and and transport networks so that future designs will accommodate alternative means of transport like bicycles and PMDs. We will also advocate for studies on better recycling plans in countries like Japan or Germany. We need to make it as convenient as possible so more people will take up recycling. If elected, this will be part of our Jurong plan. To implement an effective recycling, waste managing, and composting program for Jurong residents. For a more detailed outline of our plans, please check our new charter on our website. People are at the center of everything we do. Even in the middle of our busy campaigning, we have not neglected SAF Day last week or Youth Day this Monday. Do check our Facebook page for the various suggestions we have for these groups of people. This is Red Dot United's call to unity. We must be united as Singaporeans regardless of race, and we must be united in the fight against climate change. If you believe in our vision of a colorblind society, if you believe that we are more similar than we are different, if you believe in our plans to combat climate change, then you need to vote for us. Vote to point the government in the right direction. Vote for Red Dot United.